myself again. But it's the only way.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Monday night, of course, is ladies' night, and it's a good evening to Alicia, to Kendall, Samantha, and we will have Sav. She is just busy making a stotty for her tea after seeing Nick DeMarco's latest tweet. She's seen what it means by doing a little bit of an experiment for us, so we will be bringing her in. Katie's having one more week off. She will be back next week, so don't panic. She will have a swear jar at the ready next week. But as always, plenty to talk about, and we're not going to start with Nick DeMarco's making a stotty tweet. I think we'll look really at the lads show yesterday, which Samantha kindly jumped onto yesterday, talking about Steve Bruce. I mean, it's been the talk of Twitter, Alicia. Everybody's hashtag Bruce out. Do you agree with it? Would you like to see the back of Steve Bruce before it's too late?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's how long do we hold on to before it's too late? I think right from the off, it was such a negative tactics. You looked at the team sheet. You've got a back five and then two defensive midfielders at home. Yes, you've got to try and keep Chelsea at bay, but we've proved before we can beat Chelsea. So it looks like the mentality's just gone backwards, and it looks like the players are going backwards. Not many people have picked up on it though. Fernandez at half-time refusing the captain's armband. I don't know if many people have seen that, but that to me is a signal that he's starting to lose the dressing room, and I think if that's the way it's going, we need to get gone.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big shock, to be honest. And I put a tweet out last night. I'd heard from a couple of reliable sources, shall we say, that there's a few players aren't very happy with Steve Bruce and the way that he's managing the team. I wouldn't put something out there unless my sources were very genuine, and I do believe that is the case. And I put that out about 4 or 5 weeks ago, that there was rumblings of dressing room unrest. It definitely appears to be that way, Alicia. When you mentioned that players don't want the armband. You just need to look at the demeanour and the look on people's faces when goals are going in and stuff like that. Do you think it's a possibility?
Yeah, I don't think half the time they actually look bothered. I don't know if that's also the impact of nobody actually being there in the stadium. I think that's having a big impact. I think if there was 52,000 in that stadium, I think Steve Bruce would have been long gone, because I think you would know exactly how we feel rather than referring to everybody as keyboard warriors. You would know exactly where we stand with him. Yeah,
okay, good stuff. Kendall, good evening. Steve Bruce, where do you stand on this latest fans campaign? We can't shout and ball at him at the ground because none of us are allowed in. It's not advised to be standing outside the ground and doing it either. So we can only do it one way, by going onto podcasts, by going onto social media, by going onto phone-ins. What's your view on Steve Bruce?
I think everyone who watches this shows know that we aren't the biggest fans, but I just think, it took did McLaren get sacked in like March-ish time?
Yeah, it was too late.
Yeah, too late. I don't want it to get to that point. But the way things are going at the moment, he does anything Mike Ashley says. He's his yes man. They're good friends. The media love him. Like, with the fans are being made to look like we're fickle and we're deluded because we want him out. And it's just like, I had so many messages at the weekend saying, from like not rival fans, but other Premier League fans, saying like, okay, we can see what you mean now. Like, this is the first time where we've actually understood like your qualms about him, basically. So I'm finally glad that other people are on board. It's not just us looking like, that we just hate on any manager. I've seen a lot of people linking back to Rafa, saying, oh, well, Rafa's football wasn't much better. And I just think, I mean, where were you in that time? Like, yes, the football wasn't like much more attractive or whatever. It wasn't like, skillful, but at least it was reliable. It was trustworthy defensive football, which we're not playing at the moment. For Fernandez to be refusing the captain's armband, I mean, surely you want to be the captain of the club you play for. That's pretty much what a lot of players want to do. If you were refusing that is so telling to me that you either don't want to take responsibility for what's going wrong, or you don't want to be captain under that manager, and that's fair enough. But I think that's highly disrespectful in my opinion. But yeah, I'm totally Bruce out. I mean, we all know he's a nice bloke, he's a decent bloke, but he's a rubbish football manager. He's never had much success in his career. I don't want it to be too late, but I think with all the the humming and hawing of the takeover and sort of where we're at now, it's going to be hard job to get him out and replace him, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. And Anton Deck as well. I'm not sure if you watch I'm a Celebrity, Kendall, but they did have a little bit of a dig at Steve Bruce not having a plan B.
No plan B. We don't have a plan A or plan B, so.
Samantha, it was good to have you on yesterday, and you're very popular amongst our regular viewers, and you always shoot from the hip. You gave your opinion on Steve Bruce yesterday. I presume you haven't changed overnight.
No, I'm a little bit more calm today, but what the girls have said is just the way that it is, and it really comes down to when it's going to happen, not if. And I do think it's a lot of it will be to do with the takeover, but also these next 5 games that we talk about. How is he going to play? There is definite unrest. We can see it. He can say it's not the case all he wants. You can tell there is absolutely no passion and fight in that squad at the minute. And as I said yesterday, and I've been saying for weeks, why would you want to play that brand of football? I mean, I watched a bit of the Burnley Crystal Palace game before this, and it wasn't great, but both those teams played better than we do. So although we might not be at the bottom of the table, it's only a matter of time. So for everybody that's coming out and saying, but we're in X place and Rafa did that and blah, 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 that's very short-sighted, because if you stand back and look at the trend that we're on, it's only going one way. And he may get the odd result here or there, but that squad doesn't back him. The fans don't back him. He better be hoping in a roundabout way that England stays in the highest tier and that fans don't go into that ground, because he's made a lot of comments recently that are going to come back and bite him in the backside. And I would be one of those fans, if I was allowed, that would want to go to the ground just to tell him that I am not a keyboard warrior and that his football is absolutely pathetic and he shouldn't be allowed to manage a Premier League club.
Yeah, I mean, we went through the statistics yesterday, and they're pretty damning. And I've seen more again on social media today. Basically saying, stating the obvious. He's the worst. He's the worst manager statistically, apart from McLaren. Is Mike Ashley going to make a decision, or do you think he's just going to keep with him until if the takeover doesn't go through in the early part of the new year and Newcastle are in the bottom 3 and staring the relegation trapdoor in the face, that then he's going to have to make a decision? Do you think he could drag it on that long?
I think these next 5 games are going to tell him what the team's about, because they're clubs in and around us. We should be looking at 9 points. I think I've seen predictions of 2, 3, 4, and if you can't beat those, and again the confidence is really draining out of the team, then what hope do you have? What's the point in giving it another 5 matches? They have to be in the background thinking about what change they could make, and it won't be anyone, unless the takeover's close, that we particularly want, but it'll have to be someone that can stop the rot. It can't wait until March, but the next 5 games will dictate whether it has to be something in the January window. I don't think he'll leave it as long this time.
No, me neither. I think he will have to act quickly. He may get told, essentially, by potential new owners as well, that they need a decision to be made. It'll be interesting to see. We might find out a little bit more about the dynamics of how the relationship is working between the potential buyer and the seller in due course with regards to Steve Bruce's job. Sav, I hope you got your technical issues sorted.
I'm really confused. I'm on my iPad, but my eyes don't look in the right direction, so it's all a bit confusing. I'll get my phone sorted out for next week.
That's all right. We just told everybody you were having a stotty. You were making a stotty after watching Nick DeMarco's tweet. Getting onto the Steve Bruce side of things. These are the pictures we showed yesterday. That is Newcastle United's average formation. That was on Match of the Day the other night. That is our average formation. It's like schoolboy football, Sav. You know, there's nobody pushing forward. Everyone is bunched in the middle. It is quite embarrassing. And there's the stats again. I read these out yesterday, but just his win rate at Sheffield United, 40%. Huddersfield 37.9. Wigan 37.5. Crystal Palace 61.1. Pretty good. Birmingham City 37%. Wigan 33.8. Sunderland, no surprise, 29.6. Hull City, obviously promoted, FA Cup runners-up, but then relegated and promoted, 40.85. And then Aston Villa, 45.1. Sheffield Wednesday, of course, the team that we kidnapped Steve Bruce from, 38.9. And Newcastle currently on 33.3. So Sunderland only the only team worse than Newcastle as far as Steve Bruce is concerned with his win rate. You know, has Mike Ashley got to make this decision now, or do you think, you know, he can wait, you know, the 5 games that Samantha's been talking about, and, you know, maybe look at it after that, or do you think he's just going to keep on, you know, with Steve Bruce until the takeover goes through and then leave it to the new owners to decide?
I think it's very dependent on what's going on in the background, really. I mean, I think, you know, if we are still in this situation at Christmas, you know, relegation will come knocking on our door, because it's getting worse. There's no progression. You know, he said a few weeks ago, he said, why can no one see what we're trying to do? And it's like, but you're not doing anything. We're going backwards. And I think he needs to go, but whether or not he'll go, or, you know, obviously the things that are going on in the background, there's something going on there, and that's why he's still there. I think I read yesterday they were giving him their backing or something, but I don't know. I don't know if it's because we're in a quarterfinal, we made it to the quarterfinal, and, you know, technically, if you look at us on 11 points, we don't look awful in comparison to others, but we're just a few losses away from being in the same place as them now.
Yep, okay. We also got the T-shirt up for grabs. Don't forget, last chance to bid on this. NUFC Matters Join the Dots T-shirt with Liam Kennedy. Get yourself onto my Twitter. I think it was at £75. We've got John from Q-Tech who will keep an eye on that. But all the proceeds of that go to the food bank. We will be putting up a new T-shirt tonight. Again, hoping to raise as much as we can for the food bank. So, Alicia, Jamal Lascelles went off injured yesterday and looks as if he could be out for a while. A question I'm going to ask you all is, you know, will we miss him?
I'm not so sure we will, because at the minute it looks like nobody actually wants to be captain. When he's playing, he doesn't even look bothered that he wants to be captain of this club. I mean, just some of the tackles he was diving in for in the game against Chelsea, it was just going straight back to them each time and time again. He's always looks 10 steps behind everybody else in his line that he's supposed to be commanding. So I think if Steve Bruce sorts out what he's going out with defence and get rid of this 5 at the back, because it's far too defensive having all of these, put Kieran Clark in there. I would keep him in there, because I think he's one of the players that actually care about playing for this team, and I will keep Kieran Clark in his place.
Okay. Same question to you, Samantha.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. I mean, the injuries are there. I don't back by this working. You know, we had this conversation that it was mentioned that it's a 3-4-3. It is not. I would be worried that they'll actually put Kraft in the back 3. Will he go with Clark, Schär and Fernandez? I'm not sure. I thought Dummett might have been a good try, but I don't think he's going to be back anytime soon. So it's a bit worrying. I don't think he's good enough to have a starting place, but I think we're in a bit of a predicament at the minute with these fits. I think if he goes to a back 4, it will be better. And I would have Clark in beside Fernandez or Schär, whatever way he wants to work it. But the leadership's not going to be lacking. But then you have who wants to take the armband? And I can see him putting Shelby in and giving Shelby the armband, and we'll be back in this cycle of, should Shelby be in the team? Should he be a captain? You know, he'll play one amazing pass, and all of a sudden, you know, everyone's going to be singing his praises. And if we win, brilliant. But you're robbing Peter to pay Paul in the team at the minute, because there's a lot that's lacking. So with Lascelles out, I'm hopeful that Bruce will go to a back four again, but I just don't think that he will.
Okay, Sav, what's your take on Lascelles? Do you think he'll be a big miss? We don't know exactly how bad the injury is or how long he's going to be out, but do you think we'll miss him?
As he's currently playing, not really. I don't think he looks arse most weeks now, along with quite a few of the others, to be fair. I don't know. I haven't thought he should be in the squad for the past few weeks, actually. Just because he's just like there's no effort, there's no motivation. He's the captain, and there's no sort of, you know, he's not in charge. So yeah, I think that keep showering, definitely. Even if he can't be asked, he should stay there. But apart from that, I don't think we're going to miss him. I don't think. But then let's be honest, we couldn't have played any worse than what we have been. So try something a bit different, maybe.
Okay, Kendall, what's your take on the Lascelles situation?
Look, we're not going to miss him. He's not like a standout player. He's not a standout leader. He's not anything at the moment. I don't personally feel like. We're not going to, we're not going to be in a worse position than we are without him. So it's not going to be much of a miss. But as Sam obviously said, it's the only difference is going to be obviously the captain's armband. I can totally see him putting Shelby back in and doing that. Unless Clark takes it on board to, as he did at the weekend, to take the captaincy. I really don't know, but we need to go to a back four, definitely 100%. Kraft in a back three just really puts the fear into me, to be honest. Manquillo's got more defensive elements to his game than, Kraft in general, and a wing back. So, yeah, I think we're just going to have to go to a back four, back to Manquillo, right back for me, and Clark and Fernandez in the middle, I think.
Okay, let's move on to ASM. He signed a new contract, Alicia, and from our perspective, hasn't really delivered the form or the kind of form that we expect from him since then. What's your view on ASM? How can we get best out of him?
Yeah, in the games around the teams around us, he's brilliant. He looks like a stand-up player, but when it comes down to it, the games that we really need to get stuck into, he goes missing. But you can't expect him to do it all on his own at the same time, because every week it's somebody else that he's lined up against. It's never the same person that he's having to feed off, or even to the extent of who he's feeding to, because last week it was Joe Linton, obviously due to the Callum Wilson injury, but it's always changing all the time, and you can't expect him to do it just on his own. I think under different management he could get his potential out there, and I think he could be a good asset, but at the moment he's disappearing in games which are the big games we need points from.
Okay, ASM hasn't done as well as we thought he was going to do since signing that new contract. A lot of pressure on him, Sam. He was carrying an injury as well prior to this signing of the new contract. Do you think that's had something to do with it? Sam, we've lost you there. Are you? I think you're on mute. Got you. There you go.
Sorry, I did a Spenny.
You did. Hold on. We've got to use Spenny's favourite thing. This. Watch. Hold on. There we go. You're on mute. Quote of 2020. Spenny sent us that, and I'm sure he sent us it just for me putting that on for him. But yeah, we'll use it every now and then. Go on. Sorry, Sam.
That's okay. I just said that you would hope if he was injured that he wouldn't be completing the 90 minutes, that he would have taken a bit of a break. I think he could be doing more, but I mean, the way that we play, I mean, you could have Messi in our team and he would probably struggle because he would have to do it all on his own. I don't think he's a number 10 or a second striker. I think he could be. We just don't have the right coaching team for that. And what I noticed about a lot of our team, and I think I tweeted it on Saturday, is that Joelinton, Almiron, and Saint-Maximin like to make the same run. We have so many similar players that like to come out wide or start from out wide and come in. And if you're another team setting up against that, you kind of know what's happening. So when he's starting more centrally, he's not getting the speed up. And we're trying to feed him the ball, you know, somewhere 10 yards from the halfway line and get him to do something with it. So I think it's a bit of both. I've heard in the past that he wants to play as that second striker, that number 10 role. And if we take that on its own merit, I don't think he's performing well enough. I don't think he's doing enough. We might want it, but he doesn't deserve it based on the way he's playing. Aside from that, I just, you know, unless you're a Callum Wilson who will sniff out an opportunity, make those runs, take defenders away, you're going to struggle up top. So I just don't, you have to switch system to get the best out of him. It's just not going to work the way that the system is at the minute. And that's going to take Bruce a big call to change it. And, you know, I mentioned it yesterday on the show that, Alan Shearer, Katie's favourite, had said, you know, Lascelles needs to stop shouting at the midfield to come back and support the defence. They all need to stand up, show a bit of character and do their own jobs. So as long as we're pulling the team backwards to try and, you know, fix the frailties that we have at the back, anyone further up is going to struggle. So he needs to change the shape, and then we can really get on ASM's back if he's not performing in a natural position that he should be playing. At the minute, I'm kind of on the fence. I think he should be doing more, but I don't think he's playing in the natural position.
Right, okay, Sab, what's your take on ASM? I mean, can't we get anything more out of him? Do you think he needs a rest? Do you think it's because he's been bruised and there's some dressing room unrest? What, how can we get the best out of him?
I think personally, I mean, there's a lot of people that have sort of gone for him and said, oh, you know, he's not putting in any effort now. He's got his new contract. I don't think that's what it's down to. I don't think a lot of the players are happy at the moment. And he's a really creative player. And, you know, unless you're fueling that creativity, you're not going to get, and he can't just, you know, manage a team on his own. He's not a one-man show. And I find with him, you know, it has been sometimes he's being played in the wrong position. He's being, you know, he's not getting the service. And I've also noticed that the other opposition seem to run in and knock him down. And that's why I think he has taken a few knocks recently. But no, I don't think that it's necessarily his fault. I think it's sort of an overall what's going on in our side at the moment issue. And as I say, I don't think he's being played in the right position either. He's much better on the wing.
Okay, Kendall, your take on ASM. How can we get the best out of him?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I wrote a tweet yesterday, just, you know, say my piece on ASM. I think it's a mixture of a lot of things. First of all, I don't think he puts enough effort into a game, but on the other hand, it is hard to in a negative system. You can't, you know, lead a line that doesn't exist because we don't have a forward thinking line. He hasn't got a channel to run into. So, you know, that's probably why he hasn't got a lot of effort to put in. You know, we haven't got a Shelby-esque player that can, you know, pass a long ball forward. Even, I know we always moan about it, but we don't have any forward thinking whatsoever at the moment, especially with Wilson out. So he can't do anything like that. For me, he's a massively talented player. We've all seen it. We all know it. But he needs to be, you know, impacting the game a little bit more for me. But as I've said, it is a game of two halves. It's 50-50. You can't really impact in a team that doesn't have any impact. So it's difficult in that respect. But I completely agree with everybody else. We've said it for weeks on this show. He's not a number 10. I don't care whether he wants to play in that position. That does not bother me whatsoever. He's a winger. He needs a restrictive role, like not to be restricted, but he needs a set role where he can direct a ball in, because this number 10 position, he's way too free. We all know that his thinking is very, you know, it's very like quick. It's not, he doesn't really think about what he's going to do. He's sort of all over the shop. So he needs a directed role where he can show what he's about. He has more time on the ball to direct the ball in, because his pace and position in a number 10 role, it just isn't working for us in that system at the moment. And he needs more creativity and to show his technicality. So I think he just needs to be back on the wing for me. I really, really don't want him to be, you know, the Aubameyang effect, because Aubameyang signed a massive contract, same as Saint-Maximin, and has just done absolutely nothing for Arsenal since. I don't want it to be like that. So many other like fans in the Premier League, top six especially, love Saint-Maximin, and I want to keep that. I want us to have a player like that, and not always be, you know, frightened to lose him or think that he's going to leave in the summer, because that's just what we're sort of resigned to now as Newcastle fans. I just really want him to see him back on the wing. I want us to be a more structured system, because right now nobody knows where they're at. They're just here, there, and everywhere. Just going off the back of what Sam said as well about, you know, captaincy, you need someone from the back line, because you're always dragging the midfielders back with you. If you start giving the captain's armband to like Hayden or whoever, or Shelby, for example, it's just gonna, you know, there's just no direction going forward, so you can't really do that. It needs to change, and you know, the symptom is Bruce. We all know that, and that's the problem, that it needs to change, and then maybe all these things will start fitting in together. I really don't know what the answer is right now, to be honest. But as we all saw, you know, Almiron made a massive impact when he came on Saturday. He had one of the only shots on target or whatever. So yeah, for me, Almiron, I think if you're going to put someone in the number 10 role, it needs to be him. But we've been shouting this for weeks. It still hasn't changed. So there's no point. So you can say it to you blue in the face.
Yeah, good points from everyone there. Zubair says, can I get an opinion from the panel on a scale of 1 to 10 about whether they think the takeover goes through? And if so, does it happen before the January transfer window, Alicia?
I'm confident that there's something in it, because I don't believe Mike Ashley would waste his money on a legal challenge if he didn't know he's right. Like, he's one of these people that hates being proved wrong, but he's a very stingy man and he wouldn't waste his money. So I think if that gets proven, I think they would come back in. I don't think it'll happen before January. I think it's going to be a very long, drawn out process. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
Okay, Sam, can I get your opinion on that? Scale of 1 to 10, will it go through and will it happen before January?
Well, it might happen in January, but I'll say 8.
Okay, Sav, scale of 1 to 10 for you. Takeover, will it go through?
Oh, do you know what? I don't even like thinking of it, to be honest, because it just gives me the stress. I'm going to say 5, because I'm going to smack it in the middle, because I honestly don't know. I think it's either will or it won't. You don't know what's going on in the background at the moment, and you know, there's a lot of mixed messages being sent about on Twitter between people involved, and so I'm hoping that because they are, you know, making those cryptic tweets and likes, that does mean that something positive's happening.
Okay, Candle, what about you?
I feel like we're back in May again, from Breadgate and Stottygate. I'm absolutely sick. I've gone back 6 months. Honestly, I thought we were over it all. Yes, I think I'm with Sam. 8, it'll go through, but 1, that it'll go through before the January transfer window, because I don't think it will. There's not enough time to get all, you know, the legalities sorted and stuff, unless they're sorting it without taking it further. But yeah, 8, that it'll go through, but 1, that it'll go through before the January transfer window.
Okay, let's talk about the midfield. Sean Longstaff, of course, got a chance in the midfield again at the weekend. Do you think that pairing worked, Alicia? Hendrick, of course, left out. You know, do you think that pairing worked? Have we really solved that issue in the midfield?
I don't think we will solve this issue yet, because we're still playing far too defensively. I'm going to keep saying this again and again and again. I think Hayden's the answer to Hendrick. If you're going to play somebody, I would play him over Hendrick. I don't want to see him back in this team anytime soon, because I feel like he would take another 10 steps back. I don't think he should be anywhere near it. Sean Longstaff was unlucky in that game at times, to be fair. And, you know, you want a player like him to stay in that team, because when you have a bit of unrest in your dressing room, the ones that are going to turn up is going to be the local Geordie lad. It's going to be the one that's going to turn up.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, it's been a bit of a conundrum, Samantha, the whole, midfield issue. Hendrick, of course, getting the lickings of a dog from a lot of supporters on social media. But, a lot of people like Sean Longstaff. I mean, he did, at least try to be positive. He hit the bar with a cracking shot from outside the box. But, the midfield pairing, we've got to get it right, haven't we? That is a big problem at the minute. And is Hayden and Longstaff the answer?
It depends how you set up. The first thing that I said with the change on Saturday is when we play back five, we can't play a two in midfield. It does not work. That's why Almiron was in, kind of hovering between a 10 and making up a 3 in midfield. We need that support. And the reason that we need that support is, and someone mentioned it on the comment, as soon as Lascelles went off, the team visibly pushed up a little bit. And Alan Shearer made the comment that Lascelles is screaming at the midfielders to drop back. And you see it on the graphic, the absolute state of the team and the positions they take up. It's like some kind of military procession that they're trying to pull together. So, I mean, you've so many people trying to block. Nobody really has a role. Nobody has a position. And that comes with back five. So at the minute, I mean, if your defence were doing their job, you wouldn't need two holding midfielders. You would look for a bit of creativity and you would be asking Longstaff to push forward and Hayden to drop in, or Hendrick. But I think, honestly, Hendricks is absolutely shell-shocked by moving to our club. I think it's mad. Everyone wants to move to a bigger club. Unfortunately, sometimes when you move to Newcastle, when it's in one of these current cycles, it's an absolute hellhole. And you can just tell, and you can tell when he's away with Ireland, that although the Irish fans give him a wee bit of a hard time, he feels much more comfortable. And I think Newcastle's just been a whirlwind for him, and taking him out of the side is going to be better until it settles. So if Bruce can actually, let people play a bit more naturally and Hayden drop back and Longstaff move forward, then you've got a bit more fluidity in the team. If we're going to be expecting the midfielders to drop back rather than move forward, we're getting nowhere. And to be honest, it doesn't matter who we play there. And to come back to someone's point on Shelby, again, I saw it in the comment, he doesn't bring stability because he's not mobile enough for the way that Steve Bruce plays. And he also brings us deeper while trying to hit a long ball. And that means that the front players need to really be on their toes waiting for that. So, I mean, there's so many intricacies to the way that players play that Bruce just wants them flat-footed, defensive banks, and hope for a miracle that someone will get a goal. So for me, I think our midfield needs upgraded, but I would like to see Longstaff and Hayden just having that little bit of balance where Hayden stays to in front of the back three a little bit, but that Longstaff has to get forward, has to. He's more comfortable that way as well.
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely, I would give Longstaff a bit of a prolonged run in the team. Somebody suggesting he could even be captain. Nothing wrong with that if he's got the voice in the dressing room. But we don't know that. Only Steve Bruce knows that. Big shout out to our sponsors for this month: NewWorkwear.com, specialists in the supply and branding of clothing for the workplace. Alicia, you might be able to get that helmet on if you can duck down. Can you? There you go. Yeah, you managed to do it. Big shout out to them, and a big shout out to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend in Newcastle, and other things as well, including the t-shirts. NewcastleLegends.com, you can buy the NUFC Matters t-shirt on there, and we have also got some mugs, which of course you can find in the shop side of things on there, which does kindly modelled with a lovely message to Martin on the bottom. And big shout out to Martin. Big shout out to Martin today. Thinking of you today, mate. Hope everything's okay. Also got the calendars on sale. All proceeds going to the food bank. So please check out NewcastleLegends.com and get your bids in at Steve Wraith at Twitter. It's pinned to the top of the profile. Get your bids in. All the money from that goes to the food bank as well. And we are finally going to do this one later on. This will be up for the week. NUFC Matters Ladies Night t-shirt with Katie's swear jar on the back there. So yeah, if anybody wants to bid for that next week, it'll be up until next Monday, and that will be a one-off t-shirt you'll be able to bid for that. And again, all the proceeds go to the food bank. Big shout out as well to Kevin Gallagher. What a player he was, by the way. Another unsung hero at Newcastle. Happy birthday to him today. Always like to give a shout out to players, especially if they've done us proud in a black and white shirt, and he certainly did. Sav, thoughts on the centre midfield partnership from you?
I agree with leaving Hendrick out for a little while. I think that, he's obviously struggling in the position. He's getting so much flack from the fans, and he's only just joined, and I think that could be quite damaging to his confidence. So I think it's best that he is rested for a while. I totally agree about Sean Longstaff. He needs to play more forward rather than in a defensive role, because that, like Sam said, we just sit back and hope for a miracle. And I think that until that mentality is sorted out, we're not going to improve in midfield any further. But I think for the moment, I'd have Hayden and Sean Longstaff. Sean Longstaff on FIFA is really good. I start him every week. But I think that works the best at the moment as we're playing. But yeah, and I definitely wouldn't have Hendrick on, just because I think his confidence is going to be very quickly smashed, and he'll just be one of those players that just comes in and completely flops if he's carried on playing at the moment like he is.
Okay, Kendall, your views on that centre midfield partnership, which is it's a conundrum really. We don't have any creativity in there. Big support from the fans for Sean Longstaff and potentially Hayden. I mean, that seems to be the most popular pairing, but again, it doesn't seem to be working when we get them two together.
Yeah, I don't think we've figured out the missing piece to the puzzle yet. I think the missing piece to the puzzle is players that we don't have. So there's that one. But yeah, completely go with what Sam says again. I always find myself agreeing with Sam, but we don't have a system where it's solid enough to make these decisions in midfield, because we're playing, with 3 at the back and 2 wing backs, and then the 2 midfielders sort of don't know where they're meant to be because there's 2 wing backs. They don't know whether they need to drop back defensively, or it's just confusing. I do think we need to revert to a back 4 and have sort of Hayden Longstaff. I can see that working because Hayden is more of a DM, and Sean Longstaff does have a more of a thinking role, so that dynamic could work well, because if the defenders want a midfielder to drop back, they've got that option there with Hayden to drop back. I hope that Sean Longstaff gets along running the team. If Hendrick's back in that team next week against Crystal Palace, we're just back at square one again. Like you've just got to leave things as they are at the moment. You need Hayden and Sean Longstaff. You can't just stick a Hendrick here, there and everywhere. We already played him out of position when he first came, so no wonder the lad's confidence is damaged, and he wasn't already playing in the right position. So yeah, I just think he needs a little bit of time out. Just let him settle, just let the whole, as we all said, the overwhelming move, just let him settle. Have Hayden and Longstaff have been at the club a while now, they know the deal. Unfortunately, Hendrick's a Bruce type player all over, so he's going to have a favourable lead towards him. But I really would. I've just seen in the comments there 4-2-3-1. I think that's probably a decent, if you want a mixture between defending and counter attacking, then 4-2-3-1's a decent formation to go with. Whether or not we'll do that, I don't know. I would like to see Fraser in that sort of system, and obviously he's not back. Is there any specific update on his injury, or we don't really?
Not really, not at the moment. It's again, we'll have to wait till Steve Bruce's press conference to find out exactly how long he's going to be out. But even when he seemed to be fully fit to all of us, Steve Bruce was reluctant to play him on a regular basis. I really don't know why, but no news on that at the moment, Kendall.
Posad's seen that since, but obviously he's not back. Again, another player that's out of favour with Steve is Almiron. We would desperately need him in that position. If he goes, and if he is looking to leave from January onwards, I won't be surprised. I won't have negativity towards him whatsoever. I'll say, go on, smash it. I love the kid. He's absolutely, I'll say kid, he's my age, but I absolutely love him. He's just, we've took the smile away from him, and that is so sad to me. He is another player who I just never thought would be negative and have a downbeat attitude, because that's just not him. So we can all see it's affecting everyone from top to bottom, and until things change, until we get a solid change, it's just not going to change anytime soon. So yeah, I wouldn't put Shelby back in there, but definitely Sean Longstaff and Hayden for me, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard. I mean, unfortunately, what tends to happen is, and as you know, I'm not a big fan of Shelby, but what tends to happen is Shelby gets injured or he gets suspended, he drops out of the team, and you've got an ideal opportunity for somebody to step up to the plate and replace him, and nobody ever takes the opportunity. So then we end up having to revert back to Shelby, who will come in, he'll have a couple of half decent games, he'll play a worldie which leads to a goal, and he gets back in the team, and then there's just complacency because he knows there's nobody to replace him, and that's the big problem for me, you know. David Crone asking me what I thought of Joe Linton. I made it quite clear what I made of Joe Linton. He hit his 10 games. I did say I was going to give him 10 games. He's absolutely useless. He's not a Premier League player. He's not a Championship player. He's not a First Division player. He's not a football player. And for me, I wouldn't have him anywhere near Newcastle United. If we could get something for him in the transfer window, I would be amazed. But I would love to try and sell him in January and try and bring somebody in who knows what he's doing and wants to put a bit of effort in. I don't care what Steve Bruce says. I don't care if Steve Bruce is more qualified than me as a manager. I don't care whether Steve Nixon is more qualified as a coach. Joe Linton is not a footballer, end of, and he's certainly not worth £40 million. That's my full opinion on Joe Linton. And I did say I would be honest about him as time went on after those 10 games, and I'm not going to change my opinion. So there. Alicia, Boris Johnson, another man who I can't stand and don't trust, is made another statement today saying that fans can come back to the ground. Tier 1, 4,000. Tier 2, 2,000. Tier 3, none. I don't think we'll have to worry about this because I think after speaking to my local MP today, we're going into Tier 3 on Thursday by the sounds of it. So we won't be allowed any fans in. But on the off chance that we're going to go into Tier 2 or Tier 1 at some point, you know, do you really want 4,000 supporters going into St James's Park? And I've already seen a ludicrous suggestion by somebody from the Trust that it should go on loyalty points for the first people to go into the ground, which I think is absolutely crazy. Some people just, have been going for years and years, might not have any loyalty points because they decided to jack the season ticket in because of the whole thing with Mike Ashley the last time we could actually get into the ground. Is that really fair? But yeah, I mean, do you want to go in the ground with 4,000 people?
Yeah, is 4,000 people really going to make that impact that you need, or is it going to make it worse? Could it make it more hostile because you're going to be able to hear everything everybody is saying? You're going to be spaced apart. You're going to be able to hear it. So if somebody starts slagging them all off, they're going to hear it. Is it worth it? Is it worth opening it all back up for the sake of 4,000? Is it going to make that impact? Because then we get the problem of some home grounds are going to have more fans than others because of the way it's been set out. So people could be coming up playing at Newcastle with nobody, going back home and playing in front of 4,000 fans. And that's where it becomes, should the Premier League really be supporting it? Obviously, they're going to see it as a money point of view when they're going to take it, but I don't think it's a good idea.
I mean, I can only see the plus point of 4,000 people being in the ground, that anyone who does a beer fart, it's going to be fairly distanced apart, so you're not going to be able to... You're not going to be able to... You're not going to be able to smell it, Samantha. But yeah, I mean, look, joking aside, 4,000 supporters going in it's nuts, isn't it? In a 52,000 seater stadium, and I mean, the only thing I can see really beneficial from that is that some people get a chance to watch the game, some people get a chance to vent the spleen at Steve Bruce and get the message across to him, because he clearly doesn't think there's anything, that the supporters are all behind him and it's just a few of us grumbling.
Yeah, I mean, I made that point already, that we need people in that need to hear. They need to be representative of all the keyboard warriors that are out there talking about his pathetic dinosaur football. And up until this season, these however many games, I wouldn't have been so passionate about getting anyone in the stadium. But then he started giving interviews that I find really disrespectful. And I understand that sometimes fans can be a little bit over the top, but it's part and parcel of the game and you just get on with it. And the best way to silence fans is to get them on side, get your players on side and play better football. And I don't want it to go down the same route as Alan Pardew in the Cardiff game, where he wasn't able to get off his seat and we won that game. But he needs to understand the impact of his comments. He will get such a tough time from people that wouldn't normally do that because he's been disrespectful towards the fans. So it might not be a lot, but it's going to be a representative voice, give or take. As to the allocation, I think they need to put a little bit more work into the allocation and who gets it. There's not going to be a one fit for all, but I don't necessarily think loyalty points is the way to go. And I know there'll be a lot of people unhappy with that opinion, but it's personal opinion. It's how I feel. So, as I said, and I joked, Steve Bruce is going to be praying that there's a tier 3 and that fans don't get him, because he can't hide behind these empty words that it's only a small representation on Twitter. That's not really the way it is, because I think that at least half of whoever gets into that ground is going to shout that opinion down. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a cabbage in there. I'm not joking.
Well, I did Mars bars when Gaza came back. I did Mars bars, frozen Mars bars, and I sold a full box. Sav, fans going back into the ground. Ginger Hoskins saying 4,000 people saying get Bruce out. I mean, I suppose that's what a lot of people will be thinking. But would you want to see 4,000 people back in? What do you think of the guy from the Trust? I think it was Thomas who said, well, it's just the people with the likely, the most likely point should be the ones who go in. I mean, is that fair?
No, I think that's an absolute joke. I think they've got to be really sensitive around the issue of who they let back in, and it's got to be done in a way that's fair. Who's that little blonde geezer in the government? Is it Oliver Dowden? Is his face?
Yeah, is he the sports minister?
Yeah, apparently he really had to argue the point to get fans back into stadiums. And I think I completely agree with Sam. Steve Bruce has been bitching about us all the way through lockdown. Even after the Chelsea game, he made a little jibe. He said something like, oh, well, there's always going to be negative comments and all this. And, he's standing there sort of half smirking after we've just been completely mullered. And I think, our voice needs to be heard. He's been having his say all the way through lockdown. We've all been silenced to Twitter or wherever we all go to moan about him. And I think even if it's just 4,000 fans, it's going to be heard. And I think he really won't like it. I don't know if it will shock him. I don't know if he's expecting quite what's coming to him or not. But I think that, it needs voicing.
Yeah, it does. Kendall, what's your take on this whole supporters coming back into the ground?
I agree with it, and I was the one who said, I'd just rather them wait till they had a set system in place. I am still on board with that. I don't want them to just, stick any old, have any old system and just say, you can go this week, so and so. They need to set it out. Obviously, there's 52,000 seats in St James's Park there or thereabouts. However much is in the away end, I don't know. So they need to, if there's only 4,000 in maximum, if you're in tier 1, they need to set it out so that everyone who has season tickets specifically, because they're not obviously just going to sell match day tickets, I'm assuming, but everyone who has tickets can have a fair chance at going. They need to say, right, 4,000 this week, delete them numbers off, 4,000 the week after, and give everyone a fair chance. You can't just be going off bloody loyalty points. That is ridiculous. I've been going for 14 years now to games, and I mean, yes, fair enough, my loyalty points are high because we've been going to away games. There's a man behind me who's been going for 40 years and hasn't got barely any away loyalty points because he doesn't go to away games. So how is that fair to sit there and say, oh, go off loyalty points? I think that's ridiculous. And I'm sorry, but for someone who is the head of a trust for the fans, I think that's a really, really irresponsible suggestion, and I don't agree with that at all. Aside from that, I think it's a good idea if we're going to be allowed in. I wrote a tweet yesterday saying that Steve Bruce has had the easiest ride of any Newcastle manager in recent years ever, because no fans have been there to goad him. No fans have been sitting there telling that he doesn't know what he's doing. He hasn't had the stress of fans being there, which is a whole different dynamic to being a Premier League manager than when not even in Premier League, just a football manager in general, is having fans there, because they guide the team, but they also let you know when you're doing something wrong. And he's such an easy ride because he hasn't had anybody telling him what to do. He sat there and had his little insults here, there, and everywhere. Oh, keyboard warriors! How come the fans don't know what I'm doing? Can you tell them what I'm doing? And they're always going to have to say, and I know that's part and parcel. No, you don't have a clue what's part and parcel. Passionate Geordie fans, you have no idea what it's like for them to be sat behind you shouting at you. So that is what I cannot wait for, because he'll absolutely buckle under the pressure of people shouting at him, telling him that he doesn't know what he's doing, because I think it's the only thing that Geordies are united on right now, that we know we need him out. Everything else we can argue, till we're blue in the face about, but that is what we're united on right now. And until he's in that position, he hasn't got a clue how easy he's had it. He would have been out way before that now, I think. But on the other hand, the team might have had, the support behind them to push them a bit further. But yeah, I just can't wait to see him buckle under that pressure, because it's just not a nice atmosphere to be in when they don't like you. Pardew knows it, McLaren knows it, and he's gonna have a shock of his life. He's really, really gonna be brought back down to earth and brought down a peg or two, and I can guarantee he will not sit there in his post-match interviews now and start grumbling about the fans, because unless he goes even further and starts mourning, because I can guarantee he doesn't want people shouting at him. But I don't know where they're going to sit everyone, unless he's sitting behind the dugout, and then he's even in a worse position.
I've got to ask you your opinion on Rojas' tweet at the weekend. Steve Bruce had a pop at Almiron's agent, and he did have to have a comeback, didn't he, this weekend? What did he make of that?
Yeah, that Steve Bruce is maybe the 2-bob manager. Love it, yes, bring it. That's what I like to hear. Love it. He's true though. He sits there and has a little snipe at everybody else, and I completely understand his gripe about Almiron's agent, because yes, it seems disrespectful when you're in that position. But unless it was a media PR move to say you need to start kicking on, you need to start getting in there, I completely understand that side of it. But yeah, Steve Bruce, man, he's bloody Billy Big Bollock sitting there like thinking that he can just say whatever he wants because no one's around him. But he'll get a shock, and that is something I cannot wait for. I really can't.
Julie's asking about the get-together. Of course, we've got a sold-out Christmas do for the food bank on the 4th of December, and we will make an announcement as soon as we know exactly what the government are doing. If we're going into Tier 3, I'm afraid that means that we probably won't be able to hold that on that particular date. So what we will do is, though, it's unfortunate for anyone who's booked tickets who's going to have to travel, but we will have to just go off the government guidelines. My bet would be that we'll be in this position for 2 weeks. And I think we'll then drop from Tier 3 to Tier 2, which means we'll probably be able to hold it before Christmas. I would prefer to hold it before Christmas. We'll obviously have to make sure that Lee's available. I'm presuming he will be. But then, obviously we'll have to let everybody know. So it is a bit tricky. The tickets will stand for whatever date we decide to do it on. We will contact everybody who's bought tickets, though, and we'll run it past you first. But unfortunately, we're going to have to wait and see what the government guidelines are. We've been told that we will know more by Thursday from Boris, so let's wait and see what he comes up with on Thursday, and then we can all make a decision from there. But yeah, it still will go ahead. The food bank will still get their money, of course, but we will hopefully have more news for you on Thursday. Got about 5 or 6 minutes left, so Alicia, looking ahead to the weekend's fixture against Crystal Palace, we had some good news, of course. Zaha has got no chance of playing now. He's had a COVID positive test, so he is out. Massive bonus for Newcastle, that, because he is probably one of their best players. What would you change for Newcastle's team, and give us your prediction for the weekend's game?
Well, what I would change and what Steve Bruce would change is going to be two completely different things. I would go for this game now. One of their biggest players is out. Zaha, you've got no worries of him tracking back behind you, so just go for it. Put your attacking players on. Get Almiron up there. Get Alan St. Maximin up there. If Wilson hopefully passes more fitness tests, get him up there as well. Just go for it, but he's probably going to come on play Hendrick or something like that. I'm hoping that we can get a win from this one. Obviously, they've just got beat tonight off Burnley, but fingers crossed, I'm going to go for a slim chance of a 1-0 win if we go out there and we just go for it.
Okay, Samantha, your team changes for the weekend's game against Crystal Palace, and essentially, a prediction from you.
I think we really need Wilson to be fit. We need some movement up there. As I said, I watched Palace against Burnley and they were unlucky. Zaha's a big miss for them, but they still have a lot of pace in their team and a lot of people buzzing around. And we need to show a bit of character. We cannot play flat-footed banks of defensive football. It's not going to work. If it was Roy Hodgson, I would know how to play against us. I don't know if Bruce will know how to set up against them, because ultimately you'd think maybe bring Andy Carroll in for it, but they're quite good defensively if Wilson isn't fit. I think we just need to go 4-2-3-1, and as I'm sure everyone's going to say, we just need to have a go. It might be away from home, but this is a team in and around us that we just need to show a bit of character, a bit of determination. I thought we would draw against Chelsea and we were absolutely pathetic. So, I'm going to go draw again, maybe a 1-1. But same as I said against Chelsea, it really does depend on whether we've got Wilson fit, because I think he is the only person that could potentially grab us an assist or a goal.
Okay, Sav, how do you see the weekend going and what changes would you make?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we definitely need Wilson back. I think if we haven't got Wilson back, we're in trouble, to be fair, because we don't have anyone else that has that sort of power to score goals like he does about us. I'd play more forward. Do you know what? I say this every week. I just want to see us have a go. That's all I want to see. I'm not even fussed. Well, I am fussed if we lose, obviously. But if we lost and I saw us have a go, I'd take that a lot better than watching this utter shambles of a mess that we're playing at the moment. I think that we need to go in with a more positive mentality, actually go in and try. That would be great to see. It just depends how they all turn up on the day, because to be fair, at the moment, they all just look really miserable, like they just can't be bothered. And that's what makes me think there's something going on behind the scenes with a few of them at the moment. But yeah, I'd have Wilson in, and I'd start Miggy, and I'd actually properly have a go.
Okay, Kendall?
Yeah, 100%. I think we all echo that sentiment completely. We just want us to have a go. As soon as you set off negatively and you start putting this vibe at the back crack, and you just, against a team like Crystal Palace, who, this is no disrespect, I think they're a decent team and they're doing pretty well this season, but they're our league rivals. They're a team in and around us, and they usually are. We need to start going and showing that we can do this, that we have this positivity about us. We can't just set up negatively, especially when they haven't got Zaha, because Bruce is, he is going into fixtures like this, like Everton, for example, who had a few players missing. He's just getting this look every single time where there's players missing all the time. And, this time you've got to bank on that. You've got to capitalise on it and start playing more attacking. Hopefully Wilson's fully fit. We need him back in the team, and we don't have anything going forward without him, which is so sad. If he's not fit, I wouldn't be playing Joe Linton there. Sorry, but I just wouldn't. It would be Carroll for me, unfortunately. Sorry, Joe. Miggy we need to start, because he's got that spark that we can take them on, especially if they haven't got Zaha. Their centre-backs are decent. Obviously, Scott Dan's had a really great season so far. I don't know what it's going to be like. I think it's going to be very equal, especially if Wilson plays. It's going to be very it's not going to be end to end, let's be honest. It'll be very middle of the park. But yeah, I'm thinking a draw. If Wilson's fit, it'll be 1-1. If he's not, I'm probably looking at a 0-0, I think.
Okay, still, a little bit of positivity there after the debacle at the weekend. Tooney, which I think is Colin Wilson, who is a regular viewer, he has won the Join the Dots t-shirt, the Liam Kennedy one-off t-shirt, which is £80 to the food bank. So well done to you, mate, and congratulations, and Q-Tech will be in touch. Thank you very much for that. So I will post this one tonight. It is the Ladies' Night NUFC Matters t-shirt with Katie's effing swear jar on the back. Get bidding on that. And we've got to discuss this before we go, so we're going to run slightly over. Nick, we're getting told off for not discussing it. Alicia, what did you make of Nick DeMarco's stotties, and was there a subliminal message in there?
Well, we always say this about Nick DeMarco, don't we? There's always the subliminal message in everything he does. You know, he had that bread where he had 2 slices and went, oh, it's the 80-20 for the consortium and all of this. Hopefully there's something in it. Hopefully it's just a bit of fun. I wouldn't read too much into it. But I think it's just brilliant how only a Newcastle takeover could end up talking about a Stotty. That just sums up Newcastle United.
Samantha, it's he's certainly earning his dough, Nick DeMarco, by fighting a good cause. What's your take on that wonderful photograph of that? And I mean, would you eat that Stotty? Is it a proper Stotty? It doesn't look as thick as I would like it.
Well, I had to Google what a Stotty was. I had no idea. Peas pudding, peck, all these things I've never heard of. So I probably would. But it's not something I'm familiar with. Like, you guys probably don't get potato bread and soda bread, which we do. Because I don't think it's a natural food.
You cannot beat a ham and peas pudding Stotty from Greg's. Absolutely.
We'll talk about it. Never heard of it. And we don't get that in Greg's over here. We get like different stuff. It's ridiculous.
It is. Okay, Sab, what do you make of the bread pick today, the Stotty pick?
I hadn't heard of them either. It's not just you. I didn't know what it was. I was like, what are they all going on about? Do you know what? He's probably a really nice guy, and you know he's doing a great job. But I'm sick of his bread, like, because I always say I'm not going to look at it now. This is getting pathetic, and then I will be looking at it and trying to think, oh, what does this bit of bread mean? And I think that's like a sign of madness now. Like, I don't know if there's a message in it. There might be. But I just wish he'd stop posting completely photos of his bread, because I don't want to look at it anymore, and it makes me really hungry as well, and then I'll go and eat a load of bread and then I cry about how fat I am afterwards. So
Rob's clearly not happy. All I'm going to say to that is crumbs, and there's clearly good dough in comedy, Rob, so I hope that you enjoyed that. That one's for you. Kendall, what did you make of the Stotty pictures? And Nicholas says we've got to send Sam a Stotty. We'll have to send Sav and Sam a Stotty by the sounds of it, but Kendall, you know what a Stotty is. What did you make of it? Is there anything in it?
Rob, you need to lighten up. Had to get that in there. First of all, who cuts a Stotty like that? That is actual blasphemy. That other way he's cut that Stotty. I'm absolutely fuming about that, by the way. That's wrong on every level. Don't ever do that and put little finger sandwiches. That is just atrocious. Second of all, he's just a little tease, Nick DeMarco. I quite like him. I think I'd quite like to, go and have a bit of a rendezvous, not a rendezvous, but like a bit of a drink with Nick DeMarco. A bit of a rendezvous wasn't the word I was looking for. It was like a bit of a drink with Nick DeMarco.
Soiree.
Yeah, soiree. That's better. Like a bit of a glass of wine, Nick DeMarco. I think he's a man of a lot of culture. I think he'll introduce me to red wine. I don't like red wine, so yeah. I really just, I just think he likes the tea. I think it's a bit of fun, which is all we can hope for. But then we just take it too far and just get stressed and cry about it. But, yeah, that's all you can really say about it. I'm not going to go into bloody conspiracy theories over a Stotty. I'm just not going to do that. This year has not taken me to this point for me to go into Stotty gate right now. I'm just not about to do it.
Well, there you are, guys. I hope that's kept everybody happy. All the bread conspiracy theorists out there. I hope that clears that up for you. We covered it. We did cover it. So there we go. Tomorrow night, of course, is the night that usually big news breaks. It's me with Liam Kennedy from the Shields Gazette. That will be 6 till 7 tomorrow night. So let's see what comes tomorrow. And as always, we are promoting this month our Phone a Friend campaign. Call a family member or a friend that you haven't spoken to for a while. It does make a difference. I've made sure that I've done that each day. Rang somebody you haven't spoken to for a while. It does you a world of good. It does them a world of good. And just make sure that you do that. We're going to run that until the end of the month, and we've got a video to play. So I just want to say good night and thank you again to Alicia, to Samantha, to Sav, and to Kendall. Have a good week, girls, and I will see you next Monday. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.